The debit screen is used to create balances in a customer's account without putting an invoice in the point of sale. This feature is most commonly used when you're first setting up your Main Street accounting system. It's used to transfer the balances from your previous accounting system into Main Street. So to begin with, you'll need to make sure that you've set up all of your accounts in the point of sale section of the program. Once you have all of your accounts set up, you'll then need to put in their balances by going in under AR and choosing Debits. In the debit screen, you're going to start out by putting in part of the account name and then just hit enter and pull up that account. Once you have the account in there, you would next go into the amount field. Now if you're using the general ledger module, the amount field will be grayed out like it is here, and you'll need to put in that amount down in the GL distribution section, which we'll get to momentarily. However, if you're not using the general ledger module, then you'll just fill in the amount section. Next, you'll put in the debit date. This would be the date that the original balance occurred, or the invoice was put in your previous system, or it just needs to be the date prior to when you started using your Main Street software. So if we began using Main Street at the beginning of the year, we would just want to date this back to 12/31. How you do this is going to depend a little bit about how you're setting up the accounts. If you're going to put in each individual invoice for that account, you'll probably want to put the date as the date that the invoice was originally created. This allows you to then charge finance charges and calculate out how overdue the payment is based on when the invoice was originally created. If you're just putting in balances and you don't charge any finance charges, then you probably just want to put the date just prior to when you began using the software. So we're just going to put in 12/31/10 here. The terms would already have been set up when you set up the account. However, you can change the terms here if you needed to. The invoice/reference is the field where you can put in either the invoice number that was in your other system or some sort of reference. So if these are just the balances for the account, you could just put in beginning balance or something along those lines. And then the PO number, job number, those are just if the customer had a particular PO number or job number that you also wanted to include with this debit, you could put those in. And then if you're using the general ledger, we're going to go into the amount field, put in the amount of the debit that we want to create, and then in the account field, we would choose usually just a revenue account. Again, if you're using the general ledger, you're going to put in beginning balances into the general ledger, so these accounts won't really matter. And again, I'd like to stress there's a number of different ways that you can put these debits in. If you have a particular account customer, let's say they have 5 invoices that they still owe you for, you could put in 5 debits, one for each individual invoice that they owe you for, or you could put in just one debit for the total amount that they have open with you. It all depends. Sometimes certain customers, they just pay their invoices at the end of the month, and so there's not really much a balance that carries over, and so it may be just easier to put in a balance of what is owed. Other customers may not make payments for everything, and they want to know exactly which invoices are still open as opposed to just knowing the amount of their open balance. And so in that case, you may want to put in each individual invoice. So and this can vary from account to account. So you may set up some accounts with just a balance, and other ones you may set up with each individual open invoice that they have. Also, in the amount section there, we put in a positive number, and that's what you would normally do. But if the customer were to have a credit balance with you, then you would want to make sure to make that amount a negative amount for a credit balance. Once you've created your debit, you're going to go ahead and just choose Save. And then to add in another debit, either for that same account or for another account, you're going to go ahead and click on New and go through the exact same procedure. And you're going to continue to do that until you've put in all of your debits that you need to. Again, if you're starting up your Main Street software, you'll want to compare that you've put in all of the debits for all of your accounts with the old system. So in order to do that, when you're done putting in all of the debits, you'll want to go under Reports, AR, Aging, and then you'll want to put in an ending date for when the last date of all the debits that you put in. So again, let's say we started using the system in January, and all of our previous balances then we put in prior to January 1st. So we'll go ahead and put in 12/31/10, and we'll just leave the customer set to all, and we'll choose OK. And now it'll give us a list of all the debits that we put in, and you can tell they're debits where in the type column it shows a D, and then you'll want to go to the last page of your report. Now my report here of course is just the one page, but in order to go to the last page, just down here at the bottom, you'll want to click on the last page icon, and on that last page you'll want to go to the very bottom of it into the total section, and all the way to the right look at the balance, and that balance should be the total balance that's open as of that date, and that should match the aging report from your other accounting system that you're bringing the balances over from. If they're not, you'll want to go through this report and look at the detail on each and every account to make sure that you've got the correct balance in on each account, that you haven't missed any accounts, or that you haven't doubled some things up, and then go through and make the necessary changes until you have the same balance on your Main Street aging report as you do on the aging report from your previous accounting system.